So welcome back to another slot car review. We are talking Carrera Exclusiv 124. Now I could not find these at all in Australia, so super happy I found a Ferrari F40 in the Exclusiv 124 range. So stick around, full unboxing, teardown, and let's see how the Ferrari performs around my track. So let's dive headfirst into the packaging, because if you do purchase Carrera these days, you are getting a plastic crystal case. But back in the day, you were getting a cardboard or paper style box with a plastic sleeve, almost like your die-cast cars, which we still get these days, box like this. But I do like it. It's part of the Exclusiv series. Nice gold around the box art itself. 1/24 scale. But let's quickly spin it around and have a look at the rest of the box. Got the Carrera logo with the Exclusiv writing. Now this reminds me of the big box sets you can get these days. It's almost the same color, I think black and gold, but in Australia I did not see any of these, so quite excited to have a 124 Exclusiv. And there we go, the Ferrari F40, and it is 20410 for those playing at home, and it is quite old. It's not a new slot car, but let's take it out of its box. Let's have a look at the car itself, and then I think it's time to get this around my track. So before we take a closer look at the car, I do want to show off the plastic sleeve that was inside the box, because it is quite unique. We are used to cars being screwed down to the base. This you simply lift open and remove, and there is nothing holding this car down, which we don't really see that these days as much, or especially from Carrera. But I thought I'll share that with you because it is quite different. Now the F40 itself, cool looking car. It is old. It's not a new slot car. There is a windscreen wiper that has broken off, which I have in the box, thank God. But I do want to share something a little bit unique about it compared to, I'd say, a majority of the cars these days that aren't a rally raid or a rally car. Now, being 124 from Carrera, most of their 124 scale cars do represent the 132 scale and vice versa. But this has quite a different kind of a drop arm for the guide. As you can see, it's got a little bit of suspension going on, almost like your rally raid or your Dakar cars, but it is quite cool to see, and it is showing its age, but very unique. So I did want to share that first before we look at the car's details, because it is quite different. Now let's talk about details. Compared to today's 124 scale car, it is very toy-like. We are very lucky with what our cars look like, but I want to start from showing the top first, because there is some really cool details on here, and we'll go down to the motor itself, which is painted. It looks like it's its own compartment, but it is cool that we do have a detailed engine bay in there, and being the Ferrari F40, it'd probably be illegal if it didn't, because it's such a beautiful car. Onto the side, again, we are talking 124 scale, and as you can see, it has got that toy look to it. We are very sport with our slot cars today that look very, very nice, or mostly realistic. Onto the front, the iconic front of this stunning F40. We have the Ferrari logo there. Really, really cool. As you can see, it is missing the windscreen wiper, which I do have in the box. I'll simply glue that on if I need to. Around to the driver's side, which is exactly the same as the passenger side. Again, you can see it's got that toy resemblance, which, let's face it, we are playing with toy cars here, but it still looks pretty cool. It's got that old school feel. And then around to the back, in today's standard, you'll probably have some etching there, not like a sticker or a water decal. And we've also got the exhaust pipes, which are part of the mold itself. And you would expect that to be different in today's standards, but really cool to look back. On top where the motor was, we didn't point out the gills. They're not cut out. You can actually hear that. But again, in today's standards, that will be probably cut out with a bit more detail, but still pretty cool. Revision mirrors, we don't have any stickers on them or reflective mirror sticker, which is quite a shame. But again, we are talking old. And then onto the rims, which, I mean, what can I say about those? They definitely look a bit outdated, but very cool. I do love the old stuff. If you watch the channel, anything that's not new is cool, but you can't compare this with a newer 124 scale. So let's take the shell and chassis apart, and let's take a closer look at this unique chassis from Carrera. So teardown is completed. Now this is where it gets a little bit freaky deaky, because the chassis is quite unique. But let's move the chassis out the way first, because I want to show off a little bit more on the shell and talk a bit more detail that I didn't point out in the overall look just before. We do have active lights on these, the clear front plastic for the headlights, and around the rear we've got the same, but in red, of course, for the brake. But unfortunately the brakes aren't working at the moment, the red glow. I will try and get them going during the video. Inside we have the one piece where it's got the engine bay and the cockpit, which is pretty typical of its era, and even today you still see that, but really cool. Again, toy-like, I keep saying toy-like, but there's not much detail when it comes to realism. but I think that's quite cool. But this is what I think is the gem of this review, is the chassis. Now, I'm not going to use any technical words here. I'm just going to point out the stuff that I think is pretty cool. Now, if you are into rally raid or rally racing, or if you are from Spain, you are going to be used to seeing the drop arm with the guide on it. Well, that's very useful when it comes to rally racing. But on a car like this, we don't really see that anymore on the Carrera cars, or in most cars other than the rally style cars themselves. So it's really cool to see a 1/24 scale car with this drop arm. Really, really cool. Now, I did say that there is lights. We're not talking LEDs, we're talking globe. So that's for your fronts, which plugs into the plastic, and on your rears, it will plug into the rears as well. And then let's have a closer look at this. We do have a little bit of, I don't think it's piano wire, but that's part of the drop arm for the guide. Now, again, you don't see this much anymore in our slot car world. It is rear wheel driven, so there is no belt drive here. Of course, being in the F40, it's rear wheel driven, but look at that, what will I say, mess or old schoolness in the rear. Now, I'm not going to try and take all that off to show the motor, but as you can see, we do have metal gear and pinion. It's quite cool. Again, old school cool. It's not up to today's standards, but this is why I try and find this stuff to show it off, because it is quite different. And again, I could not find these in Australia. So there you go, a 1/24 scale from back in the day by Carrera. I think it looks quite good. We are talking a sidewinder here, and there you go, the Exclusiv, Carrera Exclusiv, bottom of the chassis itself, but different. What's your thoughts? Do we like this old school stuff? I'm pretty happy with our stuff we're getting today. We are sport for choice, but the time has come. Let's put it together. Hopefully I can get the rear lights working. The fronts are definitely working, the rears, let me see if I can figure that out. But let's put them together and take them for a quick spin around my track. So I did get the front lights working. As you can see, it's not as good as what our cars are like today, but it's cool to see them functioning. And the rears, as you let go of the accelerator, the brake lights do come on, so pretty damn cool. So that's a wrap at my little look at the Ferrari F40 Carrera Exclusiv 1/24 range. Now for me, this was quite cool because I never saw these in Australia, and now being in Europe, I'm finding some weird and wonderful stuff that hopefully I can bring to the channel, so stay tuned for that. And if you do like this kind of content, I do new release, of course, old school stuff, and hopefully some exclusive stuff too. And being in Europe at the moment, I will be traveling around, so I will try and bring you as much content as I can, whether I visit manufacturers, slot car centers, whatever I can do, I'll try and bring that content to the channel. So please consider subscribing. It does help me out and keeps the channel going. But as always, at That Slot Car Guy on Instagram and YouTube, be safe, take care, support your local.